Every Pokemon game has unique features that help them to stand out from others in the franchise, from where and how you get certain items, to move tutors exclusive to those games. This video is going to break down the best and worst features of Fire Red and Leaf Green. One of the best features in these games is that you can buy multiple copies of some TMs quite cheaply. Brick Break, Dig, and Secret Power TMs are all available in the overworld between the 2nd and 3rd gyms. Then, once you get to Celadon City, you can buy more copies of these moves for just $2,000 to $3,000 each. One of my least favourite parts of the older games is how TMs are single use, but having these useful but not overpowered TMs available to be bought over and over again can help to patch up some holes in your team, especially considering how bad most Generation 3 level up movesets are. In the Hoenn games, you can only get one copy of the Brick Break TM, which means you'll have to carefully choose which team member to give it to. This can be annoying because Brick Break is a pretty good move by Gen 3 standards, and it can provide some good type coverage on a lot of Pokemon. Thankfully in Kanto, you can have Brick Break on your Blastoise, Hitmonchan, Nidoking, Raichu, Snorlax and Dragonite for just $15,000, which does sound like a lot of money, but it really isn't. Some random trainers will give you $2,000 for beating them. There are some stronger TMs like Psychic and Earthquake, which unfortunately, you can only get one copy of, but I suppose you can't have everything. I think one of these games' worst features is that they're too similar to the original Red and Blue. Generation 2 introduced held items and new evolutions to older Pokemon, which were two very well received features, but Fire Red and Leaf Green didn't really utilise them. You can only use the original 151 Pokemon in these games. Even if you get a Golbat or Chansey to max friendship, it starts evolving and then just stops. You can't even trade in Generation 2 and 3 Pokemon until you get the National Pokédex after beating the Elite Four. There's also a really limited number of held items available in these games. You can get the Black Glasses and the Quick Claw pretty easily, and you can buy the Charcoal, Miracle Seed, and Mystic Water from the game corner, but other items like the Silk Scarf, King's Rock, and Shell Bell are completely unobtainable before beating the game. You can get some like the Sharp Beak from wild Pokemon, in this case Doduo, but it's only a 5% chance, so it's not really worth the time it would take. In Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald, you'll probably have an item on every member of your team by around the 4th or 5th gym, but whenever I play Fire Red, most of my Pokemon don't hold an item for the entire game. I get that these items didn't exist in Gen 1, so there weren't obvious places for them in the remakes, but they could have easily been slotted in around the map, like how the Black Glasses were put in the Rocket Hideout. It would have been nice if you could find a Silk Scarf in the Pokemon Fan Club, a King's Rock in Rock Tunnel, and a Shell Bell in the Seafoam Islands. You can actually get some good items like Leftovers, an Amulet Coin, and the Experience Share, but these require you to catch 30, 40, and 50 Pokemon to get rewards from Professor Oak's aids, so once again, not really worth the time investment. Moving back to positives, I love how you can get a few really strong Pokemon very early on. There's a Moonstone in Mount Moon, so you can get a Nidoking, Nidoqueen, Clefable, or Wigglytuff shortly after beating the first gym. There's also a Magikarp for sale on Route 4, so with a bit of patience you can have a Gyarados at around the same time. These are all pretty good Pokemon who can be useful all the way to the end of the game. Nidoking and Nidoqueen will know Double Kick before evolving, and they'll learn either Body Slam or Thrash at level 22. They can also make really good use of the Dig TM, and later in the game they can be great with Earthquake, Surf, and Brick Break. Wigglytuff and Clefable are good contenders for the Mega Punch and Mega Kick move tutors just outside Mount Moon, as well as the Secret Power TM. And they can learn some great moves later on, like Psychic, Flamethrower, Thunderbolt and Ice Beam, and everyone knows that Gyarados is one of the best Pokemon from Generation 1, even in a game with no physical water moves. I also really like how while you can get strong Pokemon this early on, they're not game breaking, and using them isn't an automatic win. They have pretty limited move pools in the early and mid game, so the fact that they have much higher stats than other Pokemon around them doesn't mean every matchup is a one-hit kill. My next negative point is a big one. After you beat Blaine, Bill shows up and offers to take you to the Sevii Islands, and you do have the option to say no, but if you say yes, or just mash the A button through all the dialogue, you're taken to one island, and once you're here, you can't leave until you've done a pretty boring and long-winded series of tasks. After speaking to Bill, he gives you the meteorite. Then you have to go to 2 Island and head into the game corner where you speak to this guy who lost his daughter. Then you go to 3 Island and fight a bunch of bikers before travelling through a forest to find the lost girl. You're then taken back to the game corner where you automatically speak to the owner, but you have to speak to him again to give him the meteorite. Then you go back to 1 Island and speak to Bill again before you can finally leave. I have no idea why they made it so you need to do all of that before you can go back to the mainland. Saving the lost girl is completely unrelated to fighting the final gym in the Elite Four, and if you left the Sevii Islands halfway through saving the girl, there would be absolutely zero consequences. You'd be able to carry on with the game and then go back to the Sevii Islands when or if you feel like it. It's also not immediately obvious what you need to do here, and most people have to look up how to leave the first time they end up here. You can surf from one island to explore a huge route called Kindle Road with a bunch of trainers, and then you can go up Mount Ember where you can catch Moltres. And you might do that thinking you're making progress, but that actually doesn't help at all. I remember getting stuck here as a kid and having no idea how to leave. I thought I'd messed up somehow, and I thought I'd have to reset my save file. The Sevii Islands don't have anything inherently wrong with them, and it's good how they give you something to do between fighting Blaine and Giovanni, which the original games lacked. But the fact that you can't leave until doing all of those tasks makes a lot of people really hate these islands. I think most players have accidentally said yes to Bill once, and then tried as hard as they can to remember to say no the next time they play. I have a few more positive points to talk about, but they don't really fit into a category, so I'm just going to quickly roll through them here. I love how the mid-game is very open world. Koga's and Sabrina's Pokemon are all around the same level, so you can fight them in any order. You can technically fight Surge, Erica, Koga, Sabrina and Blaine in any order you want. Some games, like Black and White or Sword and Shield, are very linear, which I'm not a huge fan of. Fire Red and Leaf Green feel much more like an adventure, compared to Generation 5 and 8, which feel more like a guided tour. I also love how once you get to Celadon City, you can buy Firestones, Thunderstones, Waterstones and Leafstones pretty cheaply. These items are really rare in some games, and you often have to jump through hoops to get them, so having them available to be bought this early on over and over again makes for a pretty fun experience. I really like how this makes Pokemon like Arcanine and Starmie even better than they already are. There's also some really good move tutors in Fire Red and Leaf Green. Generation 1 to 3 only has 50 TMs in each game, so move tutors can be really good for filling in some gaps. The Hoenn games have some really weird choices for move tutors like Rollout and Fury Cutter, but Fire Red and Leaf Green have some great ones, like Thunderwave and Rock Slide. Finally, I love how the game corner sells TMs for Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt and Shadow Ball, and you don't have to play a minigame, you can just buy coins to get them. They are pretty expensive, costing $8,000 to $9,000 each, but if you fight all the trainers you come across, and do a few rematches, you can pretty easily get multiple copies of these moves before beating the game. I find it really rewarding to save up money and buy these really strong TMs, rather than just being given them like in other games. So those are, in my opinion, the best and worst features of Fire Red and Leaf Green. I really like these games, but they're far from perfect. My favourite thing about Pokemon is how you can replay the games multiple times using different Pokemon and have different experiences, but limiting you to only using the original 151 means it's difficult to get that many unique teams. I haven't replayed these games as much as I have Emerald, Platinum and Black and White too, but whenever I do replay Fire Red, it's always really fun to revisit the original Pokemon and region that made the franchise what it is today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully, I'll see you next time.